Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Warcry 2.0. This time we're taking a look at the Nighthaunt. And as you can tell, there's been a lot of new stuff for the Nighthaunt, actually more new models than they had old ones. So let's get right into it. As per usual, we'll be starting with a look at each and every one of the new models, then we'll have a look at their abilities and point values, and last but not least we'll be looking at a list I would propose. So, starting off with the Chain Ghast. He's the only ranged unit for Nighthaunt really. Well, there's also a leader option that's ranged, but we'll talk about that in a second. He comes in at 170 points, which is quite expensive. Movement 6, toughness 5, 15 wounds, so relatively tough to take down, and 6 is a nice high movement. Range of 8, 2 attacks, strength 4, 1/4 damage. Now that damage profile is not horrible for a ranged unit, however that price tag is. 2 points of damage per on average for a price of 170 points is just ridiculous. I don't really think anyone will ever use the Chain Ghast because that is overpriced as hell. Then we've got the Bladegeist Revenant. He comes in at 135 points, so considerably cheaper. He's kind of comparable to the Grimghast Reaper. Movement of 6, 5, toughness 5, 10 wounds, also the same as the Grimghast Reapers. Now he only has a range of 1, 3 attacks, strength 4, 1/4 damage, comes out at 3 points of damage on average, when compared to the Grimghast Reaper who only does 2.6 damage on average. Because his normal damage is only 1, not 2. So yeah, the Bladegeist, oh sorry, no, that's the same for him. What's the difference? Oh, his strength is higher. Bladegeist has a strength of 4, which is not bad. So the Bladegeist is, he's decent. 3 points of damage is okay, however he's still not cheap, 135 points. Sadly for Nighthaunt you're always paying a lot for that high toughness and for the flying keyword. All of these guys can fly, of course, so that's a bit of an issue there. Yeah. Then we've got the Dreadscythe Harridan. She comes in at 145 points, so 10 points more expensive. Same kind of movement, toughness and wounds, so 6, 5, 10 there. A range of 1, 5 attacks, which is nice. Strength 3, 1/3 damage. Comes in at 3.4 damage on average. That is decent. Again though, for the points value it's quite low because of that toughness 5 and so on. However, she does have a good ability that we're going to speak about, so that kind of makes her worth it. Then we've got a Hex Wraith for 185 points, so that's the flying cavalry basically. That's why we have movement 10 here, toughness 5, 20 wounds. So again, very tough, good movement. And of course, these guys do not have the mounted keyword, even though they are cavalry, but they have flying instead. So they do not get that debuff of not being able to get on buildings and stuff. Range of 2, 3 attacks, strength 3, 1/3 damage. That is very, very low. That's 2 points of damage on average, only for 185 points. So really you're only paying for that movement and toughness. You're not gonna get any damage out of these guys. In general, having a movement 10 flying piece that's quite survivable is very good. However, you have some other options that we're going to talk about in a second, and I don't know if the Hex Wraith is your best one there. Then we've got the Tomb Banshee. She's 210 points. That's your first lead option. All of the following ones now are lead options. So those 4 are new unit options, and now we are getting into the lead options. 210 points, movement 5, toughness 5, 22 wounds. A range of 9, 2 attacks, strength 3, 2, 5 damage. So not horrible damage, however. Strength 3 and only 2 attacks. That is quite bad. That puts her at 2.4 damage on average for 210 points. I just don't really think that's going to be worth the points at all. Then we've got the Can Wraith. He's like a bigger Grimghast Reaper. kind of thing. 220 points, movement 5, toughness 5, 22 wounds, a range of 2, 3 attacks, so far exactly like the Grimghast Reaper. Strength 3 as well. Oops, sorry, no, I'm looking at the wrong one. Strength 4, so better strength, and 2/5 damage. So 4.5 damage on average. That is actually decent damage output. However, don't forget he's 220 points, so again, rather expensive there. And then we've got the Slasher Crone. That's the leader option for the Dreadscythe Harridan, I think. No, for the Mayamon Banshee. Anyways, she's 220 points, movement 6, toughness 5, 20 wounds. No, I'm sorry, that is for the Dreadscythe Harridan, I think. Anyways, who cares? Yes, whatever. Movement 6, toughness 5, 20 wounds, range 1, 5 attacks, strength 3, 2/4 damage. That strength 3 is a bit of a letdown, however 5 attacks is really good, and that puts it at 5.1 damage on average, which is actually pretty nice. So I think the Slasher Crone is not bad. Again, she also has that. Yeah, I'm sure she's the lead option of the Dreadscythe Harridan because she also has that same keyword. So she gets an ability that's quite nice there. Hex Wraith, that's the leader of the Hex Wraiths. I'm not going to talk about him because he's overcosted just as the Hex Wraiths are. Then we've got the Knight of Shrouds and the Knight of Shrouds on horse. The normal one is 230 points, the other one is 35 points more expensive, so 265. The only real difference between these is that the one on horse has 5 movement on top, so 5 versus 10 movement, and 5 wounds more than the normal Knight of Shrouds has. In terms of attacks, they are exactly the same. Range of 1, 4 attacks, strength 4, 2/4 damage. Puts them at 5.4 damage, and that's actually the highest damage output of any unit in the warband. Honestly, I think the Knight of Shrouds on horse is pretty good because, as I said, movement 10 and high wounds and so on is very, very strong. And on top of that, he has decent damage output, so he's not bad. Quite expensive, but probably worth it. Then we've got a Guardian of Souls. He's 220 points, movement 5, toughness 5, 20 wounds, 7-inch range. Yeah, he's got the normal mage attack, so 7-inch range, 2 attacks, strength 3, 3/6 damage for 3.1 on average. He costs 220 points, so obviously overcosted in terms of damage output. He gets an ability, of course, that's special to him, but we're going to talk about that as well. Then we've got the Spirit Torment. He's 240 points, so even more expensive there. Movement 5, toughness 5, 25 wounds. Range of 2, 2 attacks, strength 5, 3/6 damage. That is not bad damage output at all. 5 points of damage on average. He is more expensive than the Knight of Shrouds though, and you do struggle to see why, because the Knight of Shrouds does more damage and costs less points, and otherwise is exactly the same in terms of his stats. So yeah, I struggle to see why you would want to bring the Spirit Torment there. Then you've got the Dreadblade Harrow. He's your other mounted leader option. 250 points, so 15 points less expensive than the Knight of Shrouds on horse. He has also movement 10, toughness 5, 28 wounds, so 2 wounds less there. And 3 attacks instead of 4 attacks on the Knight of Shrouds, so 1 range, 3 attacks, strength 4, 2/4 damage for 4 points of damage on average. So obviously lower than that of the Knight of Shrouds for the less attacks. And last but not least, we've got the Lord Executioner for 240 points, movement 5, toughness 5, 20 wounds. He has a range of 1, 2 attacks, strength 5, 3, 6 damage for 5 points of damage on average. So I used to really like the Lord Executioner. I don't anymore, and we're going to talk about why. He's lost his best ability. In the past he had the ability to pin an enemy in place. He lost that ability. I think now there's really no good reason to bring him anymore. Same thing goes for him as for the Knight of Shrouds. For the Spirit Torment. He costs 240 points and is worse than the Knight of Shrouds for 230 points. So yeah, just don't bring the Lord Executioner. It's very sad, but very true. Anyways, let's have a look at their point values. So, as we'd expect, all of these are bad point value for their damage output. That's always been the case for Nighthaunt. It's even more dramatic now in some instances. So the Chain Ghast, talked about that, 170 points for 2 points of damage. For the ranged option is just horrible. Don't bring him. The Hex Wraith, you're just paying for the movement, but his damage output is appalling. I don't know if I would bring him. Same goes for the Tomb Banshee. She's got a bit of range, but probably not worth your time. The Hex Wraith is the same as the Hell Wraith is the same as the Hex Wraith, just more expensive. So again, not worth bringing at all. And the Guardian of Souls also has very bad damage output per point value. So these 5 guys who are at 0.1, that's really prohibitive. I would absolutely not bring them, because even in the Nighthaunt army you have better options, and I think you should consider those. In terms of survivability, of course, we do have some very survivable guys. I think worth pointing out here are mostly the Knight of Shrouds on horse. He's very survivable, and his damage output is not that bad. Although you could make a point for the normal Knight of Shrouds as well, just because he's cheaper, gets the same damage output done. Also maybe interesting, yeah, like you have some options. The Slasher Crone honestly is not a bad one either. Her damage output is pretty decent, and she's relatively survivable, although not that great for her points cost. Anyways, also 6-inch movement, not bad. So there's options for sure, but a couple of these new models are just really bad. Anyways, let's have a look at the new abilities, and that will give us a better indication of what units to bring here. Well, all guys in the Nighthaunt have the double to reduce the strength of one enemy by 1. I don't think that's a great double, because all your Nighthaunt units have toughness 5 already, so it's only ever gonna be useful against an enemy that's strength 5 or above, which is very few of them. Very few units in the game have strength 5, so it's an ability that's gonna be very limited in its use. Then we have a double for the Chain Rasp. If they are within 3 inches of another Chain Rasp, they get to add 1 to attacks and strength for a double. So that's just better than Onslaught if you have a friend nearby. I think that's quite a nice ability. Then we have the double for the Reaper, so for the Grimghast Reaper and the Cairn Wraith. In fact, he also gets the same double. You can pick one damaged enemy within 3 inches, so he has to have at least 1 point of damage allocated to him, and then all attacks against that enemy get +1 strength. So if you really want to focus something down, you punch it once with the Grimghast Reaper, and then you can add +1 to the strength of all the attacks against it that are coming. Keep in mind that a lot of your Nighthaunt units have strength 3, so that can be quite nice if you're trying to take something down that's toughness 3 or 4. Not going to be that useful against toughness 5 though. So yeah, I like that. That's a new ability they added, and I think it's quite good. It's quite interesting. Then we've got a triple for the Dread Scythe Harridan, and for the leader option, the Slasher Crone. And that's pick one enemy unit within a number of inches equal to the value, and on a 3-up, so you roll a dice, and on a 3-up they cannot move. So that's your new netting ability. So the Lord Executioner lost his ability to pin someone down, but the Dread Scythe Harridan has it now. And that definitely makes it worth bringing one of those, either Dread Scythe Harridan or the Slasher Crone, because that's a very, very good ability. Then we've got the triple for the Spirit Host. Interestingly, the Tomb Banshee got the same, so every hit you do counts as a critical hit in terms of damage. It's not going to be good on the Tomb Banshee because she only has 2 attacks and also only strength 3, so at best you're getting like 3 extra damage out of that. If you're rolling a 5, it's quite unlikely. It's a really bad ability. The Tomb Banshee is just too bad to bring, so it doesn't matter. It's still mostly for the Spirit Host. For the Spirit Host is actually good though, and that's something I really want to point out. The Spirit Host, he is strength 3, so against a toughness 4 opponent, he's only gonna hit on 5s. But every 5 is going to be considered as a crit. Now, what I think is going to be a very, very potent combo is bringing a Grimghast Reaper and a Spirit Host in the same battle group. If you can roll a double and a triple in a single battle round, and that should not be that hard because you do get a wild die. So if you roll 2 doubles or if you roll just a triple, you can, in both cases, you can assure having a double and a triple. And then you can move in with your Grimghast Reaper first, attack the enemy once, use that double ability he's got. So you move in, attack the enemy, he should be taking damage from that, so you're now able to use the double for the Reaper, and now all attacks that target that enemy have +1 strength. Now whatever your enemy activates, and then you move in with the Spirit Host. Your Spirit Host is now gonna be strength 4 against that enemy, so you're gonna be hitting on 4s instead of 5s if that enemy is toughness 4. Suddenly, if you're using your triple, you're critting on a 4+. That is pretty amazing. That's gonna yield some insane damage. So if we're gonna look at your Spirit Host here, let's just have that mathematical example here. So let's assume we had strength 4 and we are critting always, so your base damage is basically the same as a crit. Then you're dealing 12 damage on average per action. That is suddenly some very good damage output, some damage output that Nighthaunt really did not have before. So I think that's very interesting and definitely something to keep in mind there. A combo that might be pretty good. And then we've got another quad that's also for the Reaper and the Hex Wraith, which is just dealing damage equal to the value of the ability to all enemies within 3 inches. That's not a bad ability if you have like a swarm of enemies to kill. That's gonna be pretty decent then. So let's go over to leader abilities. Our Lord Executioner only has a double now that allows him to add half the value to his crit damage. That's not worth it at all. It's just a bad ability. Coupled with how bad the Lord Executioner is already, he's not bad, but he's not great. So I just don't think that you're going to see him used much. Then we've got a Knight of Shrouds double, which is he can heal equal to the damage he dealt that turn, which is pretty interesting, I think, because his damage output is not bad. On average, he's going to do 5.4 damage. Assume he's gonna attack twice. That's 10 points of health you could heal in one turn. So that's pretty amazing. I think for a double, that's not a bad ability. Then we've got the Dreadblade Harrow. If he's without 3 inches of, so not within 3 inches of an enemy, so out of engagement range basically. Oh, sorry, engagement range is only 1 inch in this game. Anyways, if he's not within 3 inches of an enemy, he can then set up anywhere in the battlefield but 5 inches away from enemy units. So that's gonna allow you to jump across the entire battlefield for an ability. I think that's gonna be very interesting, especially turn 1, for example, if you want to grab an objective that's in the middle of the board or something. You just use your triple, jump onto it, and then you can double move with 10-inch movement each, 20 inches away from wherever you were. Fantastic. If you need to grab some treasures or something, that's going to be absolutely awesome. You could also have him as a blood marked, so if the enemy has to kill that guy, you do one action is a 3-inch disengage. Now you're not within 3 inches anymore of an enemy. You now teleport away to wherever you want on the battlefield. Pretty awesome stuff. So I think the Dreadblade Harrow, that's a very interesting triple that could be very powerful. Then we've got the triple for the Guardian of Souls, which is heal 1 point for all friendly units within 6 inches. What do you need 1 point of health for? It just seems so useless. It's such a weird ability for a triple as well. It's just not worth it, and the Guardian of Souls, as bad as it is, that ability makes him worse. I don't know. Just don't ever use the Guardian of Souls. Then obviously we have the triple for all leaders, which is reviving 1 friendly model within 3 inches. That's a very good ability, we all know it is. You can just set up one of your guys back on the board. Just awesome stuff. And last but not least, we've got a quad for the Spirit Torment, which is that if you kill an enemy with the Spirit Torment, you can then heal all your friends around you within 6 inches equal to the value of the ability. Now that's more interesting than healing them by 1 point. However, you're gonna need a good quad for this, and you're competing with other good quads, because if you have a quad, you probably would rather use Rampage. Yeah, I don't know. If you happen to be in a blob of your friendly units who are all damaged by 5 points and you have a quad 5, maybe you're gonna use this, but it's gonna be very rare. Probably not worth bringing the Spirit Torment for. So what kind of list would I use then? Well, it's very hard to write a good list for Nighthaunt, because everything is expensive. Even the Chain Rasp, who are pretty bad, even those guys are expensive. So that's sad. I would still bring 3 of them, just because you need bodies. Warcry is a game that needs bodies. You need bodies to control objectives and to get activations. Therefore I would bring 3 Chain Rasp. I'd then bring the Grimghast Reaper and the Spirit Hose. As I said, I think as a combination they are pretty interesting and they can deal a hell of a lot of damage. And we see that in many warbands. It's pretty ideal to have one like very punchy combo to be able to remove key pieces of the opponent. So having that Grimghast Reaper and Spirit Host double is gonna be nice. Then I'd bring 1 Dreadscythe Harridan, because she can pin enemies down. Her double ability is just really good. And last but not least, I'd bring the Dreadblade Harrow. I would actually kind of prefer the Knight of Shrouds on the horse, but sadly he doesn't fit in points wise. I had to downgrade to the Dreadblade Harrow, so you're losing a bit of damage output there. However, the Dreadblade Harrow's triple ability is also not bad. So it doesn't feel too bad bringing the Dreadblade. He's also a good model, so yeah, I think that's gonna be ideal. You have the movement on the Dreadblade Harrow, you have that pinning on the Dread Scythe Harridan, you have the damage output with these guys, and you have your swarm with the Chain Rasp. I think that's the best you can do with Nighthaunt. Let's be real, guys, Nighthaunt is still not going to be super competitive. I don't think it will be. You're just paying too much for all the toughness 5 and for all the flying. That is a bit sad. Still, I think you can do great things with these guys. Some of the new options are definitely great. The flying 10 inches is gonna be awesome, and your pinning is gonna be good. So there's definitely still good things here, but yeah, it's still gonna be a tough one, guys. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next one.